Have you noticed everyone is posting these Spotify 2025 wrapped things and you're like, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this. I am going to show you how to make this from scratch so that you can get onto this trend and share what your 2025 look like as a business owner. So obviously I'm going to show you some examples here of what I found out in the wild. This one here is Planoly. They've done a creator wrap. They've kind of taken the Spotify wrapped trend and made it into their own, made it kind of like a business thing. Like you survived 4 TikTok ban rumors, you postponed filming 54 times to get better lighting, all these things. And so if there's a way that you can put a spin on this for your own business, like if you're a photographer, you could say how many shoots that you went on and how many things that you did and how many photos you edited. Like that could be so fun. Or if you're a coach, how many people you've worked with. Or you can just do like a bit of a wrapped of what you've achieved this year in your business. Or you could take more of a funny spin and kind of do things in your industry. So if you are a photographer, you could do like families photography wrapped, and you could say, or wedding photography wrapped, and you could say something like a bride had 453 freakouts if she had everything planned, and like just something that's relevant to your audience. So you can either do it about you and your business personally, or you can do it something that is relevant for your audience and do something funny there. Or you could do both, why not have both? And so I want to show you how you can make this. So let's dive in. So hello, if we have not met yet, thank you for being here. I am a graphic designer who is stopping the gatekeeping so that you can use design and Canva for your business to start creating professional graphics yourself at a quarter of the price, saving so much time and still looking incredible and growing your business through design, because design is so wildly powerful. There is a reason we pay the big bucks for designers to do things, and I want to show you how you can utilize those skills for yourself. So let's have a look at some more examples here. This is another one from a different business, Chamberlain Coffee, and they have done 6,000 minutes sipped of coffee, or their top blends, or their 1% of matcha drinks. And so think about ways that you can do this for yourself. If you're unsure, ask ChatGPT, say, hey chat, can you make me up a Spotify wrapped for my business? And it will it'll know what to do and it'll give you some ideas. So use that to get your brain thinking. And this is another one here, photography wrapped. Here we go. She's delivered 21,000 photos, her most loved gear. And so you can do this for yourself. And so first you want to open a Canva design. So if you're doing a reel, you could do a reel sized, but I personally love a post on Instagram. So I'm going to press create a new design, click on social media and choose Instagram, and choose just an Instagram post size. A 4x5 is a fine size to use and nice and straightforward. So that's going to now open up designs for you. And now it's time to create those. So I've just taken a screenshot from my Spotify wrapped, and this is that hero slide. You can see a lot of these examples I looked at had that kind of hero slide to it at the start. So let's do something like that. But a key thing I want to push into here is doing it a little bit different. You've created a brand. Like if I go to my Instagram page here, you can see my brand is very recognizable. It's very obvious. It's got lots of big, strong text. It's got lots of purple. So I might as well use that and push into that for my Spotify wrapped. So it still is building my own brand credibility, because if people are scrolling their Instagram, they're probably going to see more than one of these. And so you get to stand out and do yours a little bit differently. So let's just make a new page so I can have that there. Obviously 2025 is a key thing. So I'm going to write 2025. But for me, my brand font is Poppins. So I'm just going to use my brand font for that. I'm not going to try to find this exact font. I'm going to use my brand font, but in a similar look. So it creates the same vibe, but has a little bit of an edge of my brand to it. So for me, I'm going to grab Poppins. I have a bold version of Poppins, so I'm going to do it as bold as I can. Maybe make the letter spacing a little bit tighter by clicking on our letter spacing here and bringing that in, because Spotify's is a little bit brought in. And then if I wanted to, I could also italicize that. Now, if you don't have an italics version or a bolder version of your font, don't stress. You can just do it however you want to. But you can do this next step, which you can do with any font. So click on your font here, press Effects, and then go to this outline option. If I press outline, it's going to add a little outline to my text. So I'm going to actually first change my text color by clicking on this little A up the top and change that to purple. Then I'm going to grab my effects for that outline and change that to black. Now, the reason I've done purple is because my brand color is purple. And the reason I've done black is because Spotify's color for this is black. So you can see here, I'm kind of mimicking this a little bit, but not totally ditching my brand because of it. So we're kind of combining the Spotify wrapped brand with our brand. So I'm going to grab this. I might even make it a little bit skinnier just so it's a bit more similar to Spotify's version, maybe half in the middle here, but still italicized. All right, that's looking cute. So add your 2025 to the bottom here, and then we need to add in the rest here. So for me, I have an off-white. I use my brand, so I'm just going to use that same off-white. Or if you wanted to copy it, then if you want to copy any of the colors from this, all you need to do is take a screenshot and upload that screenshot into your Canva. If I click on the background here, click on the color, I can go to this plus button and select this eyedropper tool, and I can move my eyedropper tool around to hover over where I want a color to be selected. So if I want the same background color, I can just click and that will apply that to my background there. You could do the same with this red if you wanted to copy that red at all, or any of the colors that you see inside everything. But for me, I want to use my brand colors because that's going to be more on brand for me, which are actually quite similar, as you can see. Now, just a caveat, if you don't have that eyedropper tool, it's likely that you're using Safari. Safari doesn't have it. I don't know why. It's your browser, I don't know why. It doesn't open up Chrome or any other browser instead and it will be there for you. So let's change this background color to being that kind of off-white kind of color. And now I've got to work on this background. So a lot of this Spotify Wrapped, I just bring in my screen recording in here. You'll see it's a lot of that kind of geometric pattern kind of style, a bit trippy, a little bit fun. And so I want to utilize that for this as well. Even though it's not necessarily on brand, I do want to make sure I'm keeping Spotify's brand enough here that it is representative of all that and makes people think of Spotify Wrapped when they see it. So I'm going to go over into elements and search for brand elements. So I've just searched in the element tab, circular checkerboard, and it's coming up with a few things that are similar to our look here that we want to kind of copy and mimic. And so you can see there's a few different options here. So you may want to keep on searching and find something closer. But for me, I just want to do something that kind of references it enough that it feels similar rather than worrying about it being exact, because the exact isn't the point. The point is the feeling. And so I'm going to grab, I think I'm just going to do this top one because it's nice and easy. I'm going to sit it down here in the corner. Now, Spotify's is a little bit cut off here. So I'm going to add it in a box by pressing R on my keyboard and just bringing that to being around the same height as the letters, as my numbers here. Make that the same color as my background. So it kind of cuts off my checkerboard pattern here. So I'm going to just leave that about, maybe about there, kind of actually gets cut off. Now, another option for you too is if you don't want to use elements and you want it to be exact, you could always screenshot things. So if I go to my Spotify screen recording Wrapped that I made, you could just take a screenshot of this. Like for me, if I just press Command-Shift-4 on my keyboard on a Mac, I could literally just screenshot this bottom bit and bring that into my Canva. I could upload that in. So that's one option. I think that's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit cheating, but the option is there for you if you do ever need to. But for me, I'm going to do something that it's not going to look the same. And I'm honestly so okay with that. I want the vibe to be there. I want it to just reference it enough. I'm also going to put another box. I'm just going to grab this box that I first grabbed, duplicate it, and just make another one that goes down to half here because theirs is often cut in half, which I find really nice. All right, so the last thing I want to notice here is the swirlies, and they're very common throughout everywhere. So I want to grab some of those. Make that a little bit smaller. Here we go. And then let's grab doodles. Or you could, we can search doodles and we could do doodle lines and grab kind of maybe like scribble lines, maybe scribble lines. You could grab some of these, like this one here is fabulous. So I could grab that. And a big tip for you is when you find an element that you like, wait for it to have the magic recommendations, press see all, and you're going to see a ton of options in here. So I'm just going to grab this and make it large, rotate it around by clicking on that rotate button. And I'm getting a great kind of vibe going on for me here. So I could just do that as many times as I wanted to, create as many different designs and kind of have that suturing everything. So this one has it coming over the top of the text and it has a little wave up the top here. So I could go maybe delete that one and maybe grab this other one I had and I can go to position and send it forward just so it comes over the top of the text and just pop up maybe a bit like that. So a big part of this is just learning to look. So seeing that this is not going up above the 2025, it's just kind of hovering just next to it. Maybe make it a little bit smaller if I wanted to. And that's looking fine. Like I said, there's nothing to write home about here, but it does connect with people enough. So I'm going to also grab this one here, make this a bit larger and have it hovering up the top here because that's what this one has. Again, it's not the same, but it's similar. If you wanted to wanted to be a bit creative, you could draw your own too. If you go onto the Canva here and go to the draw tool, you can press on this little red button here, change this color here to black and change the thickness and the weight here if you needed to. You can see that little dot getting smaller and bigger. I can draw my own. I can be like, all right, this is going to be here and here, and I've got a little thing. So I could even just trace over this if I wanted to. I can zoom in here, maybe make it a little bit thinner and go zoop, zoop, zoop. And I could just use the little cursor here, this select button, click and drag to select my little illustrations here, go onto my next page here, delete this one and paste that in. And now I've got ones that are actually quite similar into the shapes and design style of the Spotify one. I personally don't mind either way, but if you wanted to draw it yourself, you totally could. All right, so then I want to add in my main text. So if I look up my inspiration again, we've got this kind of wide body text. So if you have a sans serif font in your brand, so a sans serif font is this clean, beautiful font. I won't go into it now. It's a whole lesson itself in fonts. Then I would just choose that font. So for me, I use Poppins, so I'm going to use that Poppins font. I'm not going to bother finding the exact same font here because I don't think that's the point. The point is that the vibe is there. So I'm going to go, we're ready for you. Other people are doing things like your creator wrapped is here. So let's do something like that. I'm going to hit T on my keyboard for text box. and it inserts a text box in. I've already got Poppin selected because it's my brand font. I'm going to say, your white deer recap is here. So white deer is my business name, so I'm just going to do that for now. You can obviously make this text whatever you would like. I'm just bringing in the sides of the text box to make that text stack on top of each other. And I'm also going to make this text a little bolder. Not all fonts have a bold, so if you don't, just skip that. And I'm also going to make, by clicking on this text button here, the line spacing a little tighter. Then I'll make that, put that in the center here. Just wait for that pink vertical line. See that pink vertical line that's popped up now? It's solid. That's letting me know that that text is perfectly centered inside my design. This is crucial. If you don't do this, your design's going to look messy and unprofessional. I'm going to make that a little bit larger. Remember, people are looking at this as an Instagram post on their phone. I might even do like a thing, you survived. You could do it. You survived another year of the algorithm. You could do something with your brand or your logo, or you could do something like this. For me, I'm going to do something that kind of encourages them to swipe. Swipe to see what happened, or something that kind of encourages people to keep on looking. I'm going to make that unbold, drag that text box out so that the happened is on the same line, and then make that text box smaller just by clicking on the edges here, on the corners, clicking and dragging to make that smaller. I want to make this a lot smaller so there's a good amount of hierarchy. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know what hierarchy means. Makes your design look far more professional and interesting with just a couple of tweaks. All right, dragging that around. All right. I think that's looking nice. If I wanted to, I could add a picture of myself in like this lady has done. I think that just creates a little bit more recognizability, which is never a bad thing. So you could add a picture of yourself in there if you wanted to. I would even kind of like put me on top of things. If I go to my brand photos section here, I could even click on my photo, remove the background with my Canva Pro, and see that almost being on top of that there, because it's obvious that it's going to be about 2025. Like we kind of are allowed to cover text that's obvious. And so that could be an option for me to do there. I'm going to press add new page, and then we can work on our next page. So the design of the Spotify Wrapped kind of changes on each page. You could choose to just duplicate one design if you can't be bothered, or we can kind of experiment with things. So now we've got like a swirly circle, and something that it's done is it kind of rotates between darker and lighter colors. This is a great visual trick for helping people remain interested because things are changing a little bit. You don't want to go wild with too many changes in colors, or you could choose to do them all the same depending on your brand vibe. But I do like how this is going a bit darker, so I'm going to do that for me. I personally just use a dark kind of, I don't even have a proper color that I use, but I'm going to use a dark color here because I think that's totally fine. I'm going to take a screenshot of that one so we can refer to it a little bit. Take a little screenshot here. Again, I'm not copying this exactly. I'm just using it as my reference piece because I find that far more important than getting it exact. So now we can see a scribble up the top. I could choose to draw that again. So if I go back to my tools for here, draw, make this white, and then I could just go zoop. You can't click on the outside. If you try to draw on the outside, it just kind of tries to draw a box. You need to start drawing on the inside. So I might even just copy and trace the box that's there. It can be a little tricky. If you've never drawn with your computer mouse before, it can be hard. So you might just want to use that doodle scribble hack that I showed you earlier and just copy it. Like that one there, that was not smooth. And I'm going to grab my select tool here and just click and drag to select all of that. Then I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard to unselect that background image, and then press Group, and then right click and press Group, and then I can drag that up. And then I would just drag that to being at the top of my image like this example is. You can see it's not perfect, but again, I don't really mind, but you're very welcome to spend a bit longer on that and getting it perfect. But I'm going to rush through this so you're not sitting me staring at my page for 20 minutes, just trying to get those shapes right. All right, that's kind of getting there. There's just this one here that's a little bit crooked, but I don't mind. All right, now I want to do this swirl kind of pattern at the bottom. So let's see if we can find it. You can either go to Elements and search Circle Pattern, and we'll come up with a few things. This one here isn't too bad. There's a few that are all right. For me, I'm going to actually make it from scratch just so I have a bit more flexibility with it. So it's very straightforward. Don't get daunted when I say that. I'm going to hit C on my keyboard and insert a circle. Then I'm just going to make the stroke style a bit thicker. You can't see it too much there because it's black, but I will make it white for you. I'm going to make the inside of the circle clear by clicking on the color and then selecting no color. And now I've got a circle. So I'm just going to make some circles inside circles. So I'm just going to press duplicate here and then make a small circle. And then duplicate again, make a small circle. Duplicate again, make a small circle. This is actually shaking even quicker than I thought. And you can do this as many times as you want to. You can make the circle bigger or smaller. And you'll see that the line thickness is staying the same. That's really important because we can see that our line thickness here is the same. I'm going to then click and drag to select all of these circles together. Press position and press on center and middle. And it's just going to make sure all these circles are similarly spaced. Now, if you didn't do a good job of making the circles similar in their shape, you might just want to go through and just make this one a little bit bigger again. Make this one a little bit smaller again. And kind of just editing those to be suitable and then just making sure that they're centered and middled. All right, after that, you can see I've got an accent color here. So I'm going to choose one of these circles and make the stroke color my purple instead of anything else. And then I'm going to make this huge. I'm going to grab all my circles, drag that to being outside of here and pop it down the bottom here, just so it feels more similar to this. Now, some things you'll notice about this. Firstly, when I made this larger, the strokes didn't get larger at the same time. That's fine to fix. Just click on stroke style again here and you can make it thicker again, and you can do it as thick or as thin as you want to. I like it about there or maybe around here. And then if you want to, I can add a few more circles in. I'd probably prefer to have a few more. So I'm just gonna make this a little bit larger. Ideally, you probably do this before you shrunk it down because it's actually harder now that I can't see it, but I'm happy enough with that now. I'm going to do the trick I did on this page where I got a rectangle and I covered up part of the design. So I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to go into this page, press R on my keyboard to insert a rectangle, make that go across my whole page, or at least the part of the circle I want to cover, then make that the same color as the background. And you can see here, it has a beautiful cutoff effect now that's very similar to my version here. You can also see it's cut off on the side here. So I'm going to grab this same rectangle, duplicate it and set it down to being about there. Now you can obviously make this as big or small as you like, but again, I think it's already got the same feel, so I'm really happy with that. I could also add in a bit of a wiggle or a doodle mark along the bottom, a wiggle or a scribble down the bottom here to match the scribble that's on this one here. I'm going to drag that over here for now. Maybe grab one of my scribbles from up here and just ungroup that and just grab this one and press duplicate and grab that and pop it down the bottom here. Amazing. Now it's time to add in my text. So this is where I would probably start to give some stats. So I'm going to grab my text from over here and copy my 2025. Just press Control C for copy, paste it by pressing Control V or Command V and C if you're on Mac, changing the effect to have a white outline instead of a black outline now that I'm on a black background. So I'm going to click on my color here, change that to white, make that a little bit thinner. And then I can add some stats. I might say 1,567 here. And then I'm going to grab my text from here, copy, click, select it, paste, and change that to being white. Hours, coaching. Business owners in Canva. I might make that a bit longer so it fits over 2 lines and make it a lot smaller than my text. You can see if I look at this, it's got huge numbers and small text. That's what we want, but we don't want to make our text too small to read on social media. So try not to make this any smaller than maybe 2025. But I'm going to go for around there. And I have a really beautiful design I've just made totally from scratch. And now this is looking totally like the Spotify thing, but it is on brand. It's something that I made myself that I own. That's not something that I'm totally stealing, but I obviously am being very inspired by Spotify. I'm going to make one extra new page and then you'll be able to create and work from this to create your own design. So let's make the last spotty design. So if I open up my design, there is a few pages that are quite spotty. So if I just scroll through here, you can see these designs here are quite spotty. So I might grab a few and find a spot pattern that I can use instead. You might also choose to, you can do like scribble stars like it's got in here. You might also choose to do a geometric pattern like this. But if I just find dot pattern inside my elements, I'll hopefully be able to find something similar. This is pretty good, but I just want them a little bit larger. This one's not too bad. Sometimes if I find something I like, I click on it and see if anything comes up with magic recommendations. This one's a little better, but I think I want my dots, I want my dots a little bit larger, ideally, not so far away from each other, but I might just choose to go with that. You could also put your own spin on it. Like you could choose to do this instead and it could totally, like, people wouldn't second guess it. They'd be like, oh, that's cool. It still feels like the Spotify brand wrapped for this. Now you can see the pattern of these dots. You've got dot, 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 and then the other dots are in between the dots. So it's actually more like this pattern of dots rather than this pattern of dots if you want to get specific. So I'm going to actually use this one. Just in case anyone wants to find it, it's called Seamless Polka Dot Pattern. And I'm going to grab that and see if I can duplicate the design a little bit. So I could either duplicate this design where it's got the spots down the bottom with the text in the middle and scribble up top. You know exactly how to make that now. All we do is duplicate pretty much the previous design and swap out the pattern at the bottom for the dot pattern here, and you're pretty much done. I'm going to do a different layout for you just so you can see how you'd apply that differently when you're not doing just text like the example I showed on the previous screen. So I'm just grabbing my screenshot here. Let's make our dots really large on top. Up here, I'm going to make the background white again, my lighter brand color. And I can either make these dots black or I could make them my brand color. Or if you wanted to, you could hit C on your keyboard to insert a circle, change this to being one of your brand colors and just replace the dot with some of dots of your brand color. And you know, that's pretty good. And I could make 2 of those if I wanted to, just to make it feel a little bit on brand, but not like too much. Bring that down a little bit so I've got some more dots. And that says your top album. So I might go in here and add in some text. I might grab this text from before, copy and paste that over here, and I might write your top designs. That'd be a good idea. Or your top posts. And then what you can do is add this little box behind it. So you see it's got this box behind it. I'm going to press effects on my text box and go down to background, and it's going to add a background. So I'm going to change the roundness to being not rounded, change the spread to being in, and make it far more like this example picture that I can see. Make that background black and make my text on top of it my brand color. And that's looking at spot on. Let's add that up the top somewhere, maybe around here. I'm going to grab some more, copy and paste my text again and paste it in here. And I might write 1, and I might just name my design that I did. So say I did a design, a social media post around top Canva fonts, then I might just have that as some text here to kind of give reference to things. And I might just put 1, and I might duplicate that to have all of my different things. So I'm just going to duplicate this now, so that I've got a few going on for me. You'd replace that with 1 to 5, and you would replace that text as needed. And then I can add in some frames. So if I go over to elements over here, exit out of my dot pattern and go to frames here, I'm going to just choose a basic square, make this a bit smaller. And can you see here when you zoom in, you've got a border around these. So I'm going to click on stroke here and add a stroke around this. Beautiful. I'm going to duplicate this by pressing duplicate, pop that next to it, maybe overlay them a little bit so that the border's on top of each other. And then do that for the next 3. So I'm going to grab this again, duplicate it, make it a little bit smaller so I can fit 3 on the bottom here. Duplicate, duplicate, and lie those on top of each other. Make sure that those are lying on, overlapping a little bit for my stroke to not be too thick. Make that a little bit like the same size together. Move that up a little bit. And there we go. We have some frames set up ready for you to insert whatever you want to insert. You might insert some top posts. You might insert some top podcast episodes. You might insert some top photos you've taken. You might insert some top moments you've had and photos of those moments. So many options for you there. And if you want to, you can add a little number text box on top. I won't do that now because I don't think it's necessary, but you could totally do that if you needed to. And there you go. You have a brand new post as well. So you can go through and you can use those skills that I've just taught you to remake any single page that you saw inside that Spotify Wrapped, whether it's this page, a dotty page, or one of the other patterns. You can search and find that pattern inside your elements, or you can make it from scratch like I did with this one here and do some scribbles, do some drawing, and you've got a really beautiful design. Just use your brand fonts and use your brand colors. And so once you're done, you would update this, change it, you would name it Spotify Wrapped so you can find this in the future. And always remember to name your posts. Then hit share, download. And downloading this as a PNG is fine. You would select all the pages you need and download, and then you would send that to your phone and post it straight from your phone to your Instagram and create a beautiful carousel post to share your Wrapped for the year. I hope you found that so useful. I have absolutely no doubt that you have just learned quite a few hacks that you did not know about Canva, because that's the power of actually knowing how to make things from scratch and knowing how to utilize and imprint your brand into whatever you're making. So I hope you've had fun. If you use this tutorial, please tag me in it. My handle is on Instagram. It's white deer, GD, the color white, the animal deer, and the letters GD, and I would love to see what you've made. And as always, if you are wanting some help with your branding, make sure you head to my Design Tools Masterclass and you'll be able to get free access to a lot of my best tips. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week for another tutorial. Bye.